22nd regular meeting, Medford City Council, December 2nd, 2025 is called to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan.
Present.
Vice President Collins.
Present.
Councilor Lazaro.
Present.
Councilor Lemming.
Present.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Present.
Councilor Singh.
Present.
President Beers.
Present. 7 present, none absent. Please rise to salute the flag. Announcements, accolades, remembrances, reports, and records. Records. The records of the meeting of November 18th, 2025 were passed to Councilor Callahan. Councilor Callahan, how did you find those records? Oh, your mics are switched. Are all the mics switched? Yeah. Great.
Wow, this is a mess. This is yours.
I found the records in order and I move to approve.
Great. On the motion to approve by Councilor Callahan, seconded by? Seconded by Councilor Scarpelli. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion passes. Reports of committees. 25178 and 24461 offered by Council President Barris. Committee of the Whole. Is that right? Sorry, 1 second. Here, we'll do this one first. 25179 and 24461 offered by Council Lazaro Public Health and Community Safety Committee, November 19th, 2025. Give me a vamp a little bit, will you?
Sorry?
Just take a little extra time. I gotta.
I'll vamp, yeah, I can vamp. This was a meeting about the report on ICE activity in Medford from our Medford Chief of Police, who has returned from medical leave. We were happy to welcome him back, and he presented the report. We discussed it. That was what that meeting was about. And is President Bears ready for the next
Yes,
section?
sorry, and I can
Motion
do
to
mine now.
approve.
I can do, if you don't mind me doing mine.
Please.
25178, it just, there was an extra paper number in there, and I was like, this is not right. We had a presentation from Transom Real Estate and Committee of the Whole. Is there a motion to approve both papers, both
Motion
reports?
to approve both papers.
On the motion to approve both reports by Councilor Lazaro, seconded by? Seconded by Councilor Callahan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Hearings, 25160, submitted by the Office of Planning, Development, and Sustainability. Proposed amendments to the Medford zoning ordinance, Salem Street Neighborhood Corridor District map change. So we have continued this public hearing for a couple of meetings now. We've had robust discussion. There has been more communications, emails sent by the mayor. I believe Councilor Lemming has had some conversations with the mayor, so I'm going to turn over to Councilor Lemming. We also did receive a communication at some point today, which I have printed in front of me. I have it here, yeah. So I'll just read that. December 2nd, 2025, regarding Resolution 25160, proposed amendments to the Medford zoning ordinance, as was requested at the Dear President Bears and members of the City Council, as was requested at the November 18th, 2025 City Council meeting. I'm submitting this letter under Resolution 25160 to share with you the enclosed draft joint press release finalized by Councilor Lemming and me that I am prepared to issue once the Salem Street Neighborhood Corridor District map change has been voted on by the Council. Specifically, I'm again requesting the Council amend the zoning map to change the designation from MX2 to MX1 for the parcels within the Salem Street and Park Street node as shown on the map entitled Salem Street Corridor Zoning, dated March 3rd, 2025. Respectfully submitted, Brianna Lingo-Kern, Mayor. We have a draft here. Mayor and City Council agree to restart zoning project. At the December 2nd, 2025 Medford City Council meeting, this would be if that vote was taken, the Mayor and City Council agreed on a plan to restart the city's zoning updates project. The city will sign an extension and provide additional resources to advance key zoning priorities in Medford Square, Tufts, and Boston Ave between now and May 2026. The city will solicit new proposals starting in February, March for work on zoning updates between May 2026 and June 2028 with a 1-year extension, if not complete. The Mayor, in collaboration with the Office of Planning, Development, and Sustainability, will appropriate funding to sign a contract extension with Innis Land Group to perform work in the following areas from December 2025 to May 2026. full Bedford Square zoning update, Tufts Institutional Zone and Boston Ave, clean up areas of our zoning in accordance with the needs of the Building Commissioner and Office of Planning, Development, and Sustainability, and communications and community engagement support. The mayor will additionally request that the City Council and Community Development Board hold a joint public hearing in January to discuss the rezoning proposal for Medford Square and West Medford Square that is currently sitting in the Community Development Board. Following this, a request for proposals for a new contract will be released to bidders in February/March, and a proposal will be selected in April to begin work in May 2026 and continue through June 2028. This RFP will include Main Street and Broadway corridors, the initiation of a parking study through Planning, Development, and Sustainability, Wellington Mystic Valley Parkway after the completion of the Wellington Transformation Study, West Medford Square after the completion of the West Medford Economic Assessment and SWOT analysis, Mystic Avenue after the Tufts UEP field project proposal for Mystic Avenue corridor, residential including ADUs and historic conversion, starting with the less dense residential zoning map that the council approved in March 2025 as a starting point, which could be adjusted based on neighborhood input. The map released by the Community Development Board from May 2025 will not be the starting point. Parking will take place at the same time as residential zoning, transportation demand management review, inclusionary zoning updates, and affordable housing overlay. Other agreements include an RFP and additional funds for a public relations consultant to engage in more robust community engagement, including a professionally designed standalone zoning website, support for neighborhood meetings, and better outreach into the community ahead of zoning meetings via mailers, text messages, robocalls, and social media. The council and the mayor will work together on whether or not this should be a standalone RFP. No new zoning amendments will be presented during July and August. Department heads will be consulted from the beginning on all of the above. At the December 2nd meeting, the council voted to rezone parts of the Salem Park node from MX2 to MX1 following a September request from the mayor. So that's the full draft. Thank you, Councilor Lemming, for working on it, and I will turn it over to you, and then we can go to discussion from the council, and then we'll reopen the public hearing. Councilor Lemming.
Yes, thank you, Council President Bears. Following the last City Council meeting where members of this body requested that the full agreement be written out in detail and sent out in a press release, I worked with the mayor and the Office of Planning, Development, and Sustainability on hammering out the exact wording of a press release so that we can then vote to endorse it, and subsequently the mayor and the communications team will release it. I think this is, I think this will make it clear what the rezoning process will entail moving forward. I think a consistent pattern in this process that pretty much everybody has agreed upon is that communication has been lacking both within City Hall and among the general public, and having a press release coming from the mayor and endorsed by the City Council will go a long ways towards building trust in the process moving forward, and it will also give us something to point to regarding sort of what we agreed upon. I think that individual members of this council in the preceding meetings have made it very clear what their views on this are individually, so I'm not gonna speak for anybody else here, but I personally feel like this, what's written out here, does provide us with a very solid framework moving forward, and I thank the mayor's office for working with me on it. In terms of moving forward, I would, I'm not sure if we would have to motion to close the public hearing first, but I would motion to, I think that the two motions would be to approve the amendment and then follow it, and then contingent upon its approval, motion for a B paper to endorse the wording of this proposal as well.
Yeah, just procedurally, we have to reopen the public hearing, and then we'll close the public hearing, and then we would have to vote on any B paper before voting on the main paper.
Wait, so we'd have to vote to endorse this? prior to the actual Salem Street.
Yeah,
Okay, okay. Well,
but we can get there once we've once we've closed the public hearing. I'll take the motions.
gotcha. All right.
Great.
Well, that's all I have to say.
All right. Go to Counselor Scarpelli, then Counselor Lazaro, then Council Vice President Collins. Counselor Scarpelli.
Right, so Council Bears, I believe that we were talking about the press release going public first before we went through any votes, correct? Is that we wanted it to go public so people can chime in and bring us back to where we were? I think that's one of the things we talked about, is having people see what the mayor is saying. And then people can look into this, and then as part of the process that we've talked about, being communicated and making sure that everybody sees the process. And then, so I wasn't expecting for a vote for that tonight. I was expecting to vote on the press release going out to the public, and then at our next meeting, receiving any of the feedback that we have from the residents in that, and especially in the Salem Street area, that have been reaching out to us. So maybe I'm wrong, but I think that that's the way to go.
To be honest, I was not part of the negotiations.
Yeah, okay, I wasn't either, so.
From reading from reading this, it seems like the mayor is saying that she's only willing to put out a press release after a vote, but I'll let Councilor Lemming talk about that.
Sure. I should say that this was hammered out between the two of us, and I think I fully understand what you're saying. I think there was a bit of a chicken and egg issue where we would want the press release to go out and then vote on it, but the mayor would sort of want it the other way around, and it's just a matter of the body's not really. I think there is a matter of trust between the bodies. So what I propose, and this proposal did come from me, so was to pass it, and then if we did end up voting in favor of the amendment, then vote to endorse this press release, assuming that members of this council wanted the endorse the wording of the press release. So again, I think that I fully hear what you're saying. I think there is a bit of a chicken and egg issue going on there, and I will say that the press release went out tonight. Like the press release only got to us in a draft form today, so we didn't have individuals didn't have too much time to review it. But what I will say is that in this particular case, this was the result of me actually trying to work with the administration on this. So at least there is one member of the body trying to be, we are trying to be a little bit collaborative in this case. But I would be interested in hearing from my colleagues on what their opinions on the process should be moving forward.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate Council Lemming, reaching out and being that olive branch. I think that we all want to see this move forward one way or the other so we can get to a resolution. But I think that, it's the who's on first game, where, again, this is where we vote on something tonight without getting the input of what has been publicly released, and then it comes back to the council saying, there you go again. We asked for a transparent and open form of government, but we're doing something privately, because we've heard that 1,000 times in the last couple of weeks, right? Everything's being done in a bubble, and even the council doesn't know what's going on at times. So I don't know. I don't know if I can support it, a vote, until I would vote to move the press release to go public, but so I'm gathering she wants us to vote on, I don't know, I'm talking in some riddles right now, so I need to, yeah, go ahead if you can, yeah.
Maybe we could go around, or go ahead, Matt. Councilor Lemming.
I could, well, yeah, sorry. So I think I do appreciate what you're saying with wanting to get feedback from residents on what the process ought to be. But I will repeat, I think this, it does become a bit of a chicken and egg issue, because if the press release were phrased in such a way that, I don't know, I do think it would be a bit odd to give out a press release with like details of what the rezoning process could be and say, this is just one draft, this is just one possibility of the way things could go. Please, residents, come back and tell us what you think it should be. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just, we're approving this draft release. We then have to have a meeting on the substance of it, we have to have a meeting to restart the first phase of that process. We have to have a meeting on writing the RFP. I think there's room for engagement. And I would like to see, to be honest, like maybe in this first phase, that some of the communication support would be talking about the meeting about the RFP for the second phase, But I agree with you. I mean, my personal preference was also that a public statement was made before it came back to us, and it seems like that wasn't where we landed up. Yeah. But I hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And good, Councilor Lemming?
Yeah, the other point, and I should just say, like, the reason that I kind of do want to get this done tonight is in full transparency. The CDB, they have a meeting on the residential rezoning proposal on December 17th, which they only have because it was delayed from the last time it was discussed, I believe in June or July. And I would, if we get this published, which essentially is an agreement between the council and the mayor, that we're then showing to the public on how this project will move forward, then I think that provides us like a little bit of solid ground on which we can proceed. And I would like to then submit a resolution at the next meeting to actually withdraw that resolution, the residential rezoning proposal from the CDB. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds like a path forward. This is a start. As I read this, it's a starting point. Details to come in terms of some of we're not saying exactly when everything's going to happen. It's still a framework. Councilor Lazaro.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to the Mayor's Office, the Planning, Development, and Sustainability Office, and Councilor Lemming for hammering out the details of this. There were a lot of different people with a lot of different requests being made over a period of time on this topic, and it's very easy for it to get muddy. So I just appreciate that everybody was coming together and trying to figure out how to move forward on this project in a way that was cohesive. I'm comfortable moving forward with this. I've said everything I had to say on the topic, and I feel good about where we landed based on what we have here. And as you said, being able to hammer out the details as we move forward, I think that's still available to us. So I think that's fine. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Councilor Lazaro. Vice President Collins.
Thank you, President Bears. I appreciate the discussion around this. I'm happy to see this reach this point, and I also want to thank Councilor Lemming for bringing it home, so to speak. We've had a lot of conversations about this for the past, over our 2 meetings in November, and I think I've made it pretty clear in our past 2 meetings and in my private conversations with the mayor, my list of needs, things that I needed to see to, not things that I needed to see to be able to support the Salem Street Amendment, because I do support that and I was ready to vote yes on that, but things that I need to see in order to take that vote at all. And I think we've closed a lot of distance between where she started and my list of needs and other councilors' lists of needs. And I'm really happy to see that, and I'm glad that we've gotten to the point where we can take the vote on the Salem Street Amendment and be done with that. And I'm even more glad that we've reached the point where we can say with certainty to the community that has been invested in visioning the future of planning in Medford for 5 years and that has been invested in conversations about rezoning in Medford for 2 years, that yes, we have a confirmed path forward. We have to me, this is a public commitment. It's not yet a press release. It will be, but it's public record now. And that was very important to me to be able to see, that was a critical ingredient for me to be able to take a vote on the Salem Street Amendment. Because frankly, I've said this before, but I'll say it again, I think the City Council's approach has been collaborative throughout this process. I think that city staff's approach has been collaborative throughout this process. I think that collaboration breakdown has been in the mayor's office. And that is why we had to say, we have to retain this chip of leverage that we have until we get a guarantee from your office that you will collaborate with us going forward. And I'm sorry that we had to play it like that, but I think if you look at where we started 6 weeks ago or back in late July and where we are now, the proof is in the pudding. So I really appreciate my fellow councilors for sticking their necks out for a process that is what the community deserves. I'm very happy that we'll be able to jointly publish this press release and be able to say to the community, we'll hammer out the details later. We'll hammer out the details in January and February, but we will be crafting an RFP that, unlike the last one, will ask for adequate resources for community engagement and communications and public participation, and will cover all of these topics without rushing and with less confusion. That is what the community has been asking for. That is what the community deserves. And I am really excited to see what that looks like over the next 2 or 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Collins. Any more comments or questions from members of the council? Seeing none at this time, I'm going to reopen the public hearing. If you're here in person and you'd like to speak on this topic, this is the proposed amendment for Salem Street zoning, you can come to the podium, or if you're on Zoom, you can raise your hand. Public hearing is open. Seeing one hand, and I will go there in just a second. I do want to note this is our 3rd meeting of this continued public hearing, and we have had several people speak on this in previous public hearings. Give me 1 second, Micah. All right. Name and address for the record, please, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Micah Kesselman, 499 Main Street. First of all, I just want to say that I'm glad to see that this is finally like coming to closure after a long and arduous back and forth. But I do want to get some clarity on something. Am I to understand right that the mayor basically got this to the city council just today, this afternoon?
Micah, I'll answer questions at the end of your comment, but I'll
Okay,
write them
sure.
down.
Okay, so if that is my understanding, I think it is really bears pointing out that this is like a pattern of behavior that is making all processes that go before the council and require collaboration with the mayor far more difficult and challenging than they need to be. This is the mayor's full-time job. This is no single councilor has this as their full-time job. This like last minute, sometimes dog ate my homework type of handing in of deliverables that need to be vetted and reviewed by the council really needs to improve. It's very challenging. Also challenging for the public too, because we also want to see what's going on and look at what's submitted. So but anyway, I'm happy to see that this finally coming to a close. So thanks to you guys, and also thanks to the mayor for working with you guys on it.
Thank you. Yeah, we received this by email at 4:34 p.m. today. Do we have any, and actually at 5:30, well, actually, I'm not sure we all received it. I'm not sure. I received it at 4:34 p.m. today. Councilor Lemming?
Well, just to clarify sort of the back and forth, I believe an initial draft was sent out, I think it was Monday or Tuesday, or no, sorry, no, it was, sorry, an initial draft was sent out at some time last week, and then there was I did have a back and forth with the mayor on just like wording that would be more acceptable, and there were just some points of sort of contention that I know that my colleagues expressed at the previous meeting as well. And so yes, the final draft of this did come out quite late before this meeting, but from what I was seeing on the back end, there wasn't any like particularly egregious delays from the mayor's end of things, at least within the past week. I think that it could have been improved if we'd started to work on a press release immediately after the last meeting, but that didn't happen. So and obviously to address some of Micah's points, I didn't like this process. I don't think anybody did like this process. And a lot's been said about it at previous meetings, but I just want to move forward on it. And I think this is probably the best deal between both parties that we will end up getting.
Thank you, Councilor Lemming. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this topic in the public hearing? Seeing no one in the chambers and no hands on Zoom, I'm declaring the public hearing closed. Is there a motion? Well, Councilor Lemming, you had two motions. If you want to, I can see if I can get them down myself. There was a motion for a B paper to approve the, here, you go ahead.
Well, yeah. So I'm not sure about the order of it, but I would say the B paper would be approving the wording of the press release, and then the A paper would be the Salem Street amendment itself. And then obviously if the Salem Street vote fails, then the mayor doesn't actually have to release this.
Got it. Do we have any questions? So I have a motion on a B paper to approve the language of the draft press release submitted by the mayor on Tuesday, December 2nd. By Councilor Lemming. Is there a second on that motion? Seconded by Councilor Sang. And then we'll take a motion on the main paper. On the B paper, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan. Yes. Vice President Collins. Yes. Councilor Lazaro. Yes. Councilor Lemming. Yes. Councilor Scarpelli. Yes. Councilor Singh. Yes. President Beers.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative, the motion passes. And then on the main paper, this is the motion to adopt the zoning amendment submitted to us by the Community Development Board, paper 25160. Let me just double check. And once again, this is from Danielle Evans, Senior Planner, Office of Planning, Development, and Sustainability, on behalf of the Community Development Board. The Community Development Board held a public meeting on September 17th, 2025 to consider a request from the mayor to initiate a zoning amendment to the Salem Street Corridor District in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 48, Section 5. The proposed amendment, as described in the attached memorandum from Mayor Longo Kern to the Community Development Board, dated September 15th, would amend the zoning map to change the designation from MX2 to MX1 for the parcels within the Salem Street and Park Street node, as shown on the map entitled Salem Street Corridor Zoning, dated March 3rd, 2025. Board members present at the meeting were Acting Chair Adam Behrens, Member John Anderson, Member Sean Began, Member Doug Carr, and Member Dina Colagero. Chief of Staff Nina Nazarian appeared before the board and presented the request. After consideration of the request, this Community Development Board voted unanimously 5-0 to submit the zoning amendment to the City Council as presented. Since the motion to adopt the zoning amendment as presented by Councilor Lemming, seconded by Councilor Sang. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Counselor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Counselor Lazaro. Counselor Lemming. Counselor Scarpelli. Counselor Singh. President Beers.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion passes. The zoning amendment is adopted. Communications from the mayor, 25181. Submitted by Mayor Brianna Longo-Kern, Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan and Guidelines. Give me 1 second here again. Sorry, y'all. Just gonna take it online. One second, sorry. November 25th, 2025, regarding Affordable Housing Trust Action Plan and Guidelines, 2025 to 2030. Dear President Barris and members of the City Council, the Medford Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board has prepared the enclosed Medford Affordable Housing Trust Fund Action Plan and Guidelines for the years 2025 to 2030. I respectfully request and recommend the Council permit a presentation to be made to your honorable body on the plan and guidelines. Medford Affordable Housing Trust Fund Board Chair Lisa Davidson and Trustee Roberta Cameron will be present to present the plan and guidelines. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Sincerely, Brianna Longo-Kern, Mayor. So with that, I will recognize our Affordable Housing Trust Fund members, the Chair Lisa Davidson and Roberta Cameron.
Hi, thank you for letting us present our action plan here. I'm Lisa Davidson. I am the chair of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund here in Medford. And we had slides to be able to show, I don't know. I did not see. Oh, no.
I sent them to you. About 4:30 this afternoon. Okay. Yeah. I'll do that right now. And maybe get some Councilor Lemming. Councilor Lemming, okay. Yep.
Thank you. Is there anything you'd like to introduce while we wait for the slides?
Well, sure. I will, while we're waiting for the slides, I'll just let you know, there's 7 members of the trust. There is the mayor, myself as the chair, Penny Taylor as the vice chair, Kayla Lesin as the treasurer, Roberta Cameron here as a trustee, as well as she sits on the Medford CPC. She chairs there. Kerry Weaver and the trustees, Kerry Weaver and Teta DeRosa are trustee members. And we had a pretty active first year, which is, I'm going to sort of wait for the slide here because it talks about our timeline for the, it was a busy year. It was a whirlwind. We had our first meeting in August 2025, and we just did so much over the first year, getting the action plan and the declaration of trust and putting everything together.
All right. Councilor Lemming, did you receive the slides?
Which email are you
Lemming.
sending?
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
Sending it to mlemming@medford-ma.gov.
Yeah. You may want to throw the Gmail on. That might get through the spam filter faster. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll send it again.
Oh. Just
It's in
send
my
it,
Gmail.
just send it to every email of mine that you have. I think I have like 3 that,
Okay. I've sent it a few times. Anyone have it?
Fingers crossed.
And feel free in the future to send it to Rich, and he can get it out to everybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I didn't know who to send it to, so.
Yes.
Confirm someone has it, or should I continue looking for email addresses?
You got it, Matt?
I'm looking through, oh, no, I got something.
Great.
Can
I
confirm.
found it in my Gmail, which is not where I was looking, but I forwarded it.
Okay, no, I'm pulling it up. It looks very pretty.
I forwarded it to Matt too, so
Yes.
eventually there will be slides on the screen for you to
Yay.
present.
At some
Roberta
point,
worked so hard on the slides, and they made them so
Right.
color coordinated.
okay, all right.
Thanks,
all right.
Matt.
All right, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. And if we can just skip right to slide 3. It is our timeline. Yay,
go.
thank you.
Of course, the timeline is very small, but
Because we were so busy this year, we
We
wanted to
were very
cram
busy.
it all in on our slideshow on what we've done. So just a refresher of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. It was in March of 2023, the ordinance was adopted that established the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. In July of 2024, the members were appointed to the trust. And then the fall of 2024 through the summer of 2025, there was a subcommittee that was formed to work on the draft plan. January 2025, we created the Declaration of Trust, which is now recorded at the Registry of Deeds. We received funding in the amount of $300,000 from the CPC to help create affordable housing, fill the financial gap of for the nonprofit partners that are building housing. In May of 2025, we issued our first NOFO, Notice of Funds Available. In August of 2025, we voted to approve our first loan. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund chose to make loans instead of grants. That way, the funds that we award, it rolls back at us, and we can have a continued source of revenue to fund affordable housing. Let's see, fall of 2025, we applied for additional CPA funding, and we are now implementing our action plan that we created.
And I will take over introducing the action plan itself. The action plan, by the way, is available on the Housing Trust's webpage if anybody wants to refer to it. The action plan, we prepared it, as Lisa mentioned, between the fall of 2024 and summer 2025. We went through first compiling data, looking at existing data to understand kind of what Medford's housing market looks like, who lives in Medford, and what our housing looks like and where the housing needs are in the community. Then we undertook some very extensive stakeholder outreach. We had a series of meetings with organizations, other government entities, nonprofits, developers in the area to understand what does it take to build housing in Medford? What do they see as Medford's housing needs and potential ways to address the housing needs, and what are some lessons learned that we could implement to be able to get up to speed very quickly. And then after gathering input from the stakeholders, we went and gathered public input. We had a public outreach meeting, a public workshop where we presented the data and some of our findings, and then asked for public input about housing needs and potential opportunities to address those housing needs. Then the Housing Trust Board altogether spent a few of our monthly meetings developing our goals and potential actions to undertake over the first 5 years for the Housing Trust. And then we presented this again to the public in July this past year, and spent the subsequent months pulling together the final plan that you have in front of you. So the plan has, just to walk you through it, there is an executive summary starting on page 5, and then there are 3 sections to the plan. The first section is analysis and context, the data analysis that we provided. The second section of the plan talks about the community engagement and stakeholder engagement efforts and what we learned from that. And then the third section of the plan is the action plan itself, which Lisa will talk more about in a moment. But I will go through the analysis and context with you. The first question that we asked is, who lives in Medford? And some really interesting things that we learned from the data. First of all, Medford gained over 4,000 young adults between 2010 and 2020. That's just really out and a figure that really stands out for us. All other age groups stayed about the same or lost population during this time, so we shifted toward a younger population. We're experiencing a significant increase in non-family households, especially in unrelated people living together or roommates. We're seeing a diminishing share of families, seniors, and people living alone. Medford is gaining in diversity in terms of its racial ethnic mix, but interestingly, we have a smaller share of people with disabilities than the state average. And this might be because of the quality of housing that we have that doesn't accommodate people with disabilities, so they may be having to live elsewhere. So I accidentally skipped a slide, so we can just pause here for a moment. The next bit of data that we looked at is, what does Medford's housing look like? So we learned that about 39% of our housing are single-family homes, 35% are small multifamilies, that is 2 to 3 family buildings, and 47% of our homes are renter occupied, so just under half is renter occupied. Most of our 2 to 3 family homes are around 100 years old. That the rate of all housing construction dropped sharply around before 1940. So in the last lifetime, most of the development has been single-family homes with some very large apartment buildings and condo buildings mixed in. Average assessed values of single-family homes and condos have been increasing. Since between 2017 and I forget what is the most recent year that's cited of assessors data that's cited in the market study. We've seen a 50 to 60% increase over the past 5 years. Newer units are increasingly large and more expensive, with average assessed values over $1 million for single-family homes built after 2000. We also saw from the assessor's data that housing has a lower value per unit as the number of units in a building increases. So that means that multifamily housing is inherently more affordable per unit than single-family or smaller multifamily housing. And we also learned, interestingly, that Medford lacks smaller-sized units. Only 15% of our housing units have 1 bedroom, while almost 30% of our households have only 1 person. Plus, we learned about all of those roommate households earlier who might prefer to live in smaller housing units if they were available. Next slide, please. So who is struggling with housing costs in Medford? Around 5,500 households, that's about 25% of our households, are below 50% of area median income. That's a really large share. 2/3 of these households are housing cost burdened, with a significant share spending more than half of their income on housing. Medford has a significant share of low-income homeowners. In particular, seniors over the age of 65 comprise 1/3 of all homeowners, and the median income for seniors households is only $44,000. That's a really stark number that also stands out. The median household income for all households is $115,000. Young adults, renters, and non-family households have lower median incomes, but the disparity is less than the county or state level data. Median household income for renters, meanwhile, has increased rapidly, which reflects what it requires to move into Medford today. And it also reflects displacement, because renters are being pushed out to market apartments to higher income households or to more roommate households. Note that a household, by the definition that we measure income by, is just anybody who lives in a housing unit. So those multiple roommates who live in a housing unit, each with their own income, contribute to higher household incomes. So it's not actually a growth in wages, it's a growth in the number of wage earners per housing unit that we have. So that's all of our local housing data. Next slide. We also looked at what are the existing resources that we have in the community. Right now, we have a total of just over 2,000 affordable housing units, which comprises 8.12% of our housing units citywide, which is the SHI number. That's a subsidized housing inventory number that we are looking to meet the minimum 10% threshold for. Most of our affordable housing units are with the Medford Housing Authority. 851 of the units are public housing units, and then we also have 700 project-based Section 8 housing units, which are also subsidized through the Medford Housing Authority. We have also 49 units which are administered by the state to serve people with disabilities. And the remainder are privately owned affordable housing units, 289 of which are in 40B developments, which are not even constructed yet. So those units don't actually exist, but we already get to count them toward our subsidized housing inventory. So that's the picture. We also have about we have about $2 million annually in the entire CPA program. Over 6 years, we've spent about $4 million on affordable housing. That's roughly 25% of the CPA money so far has been spent on affordable housing. We're also part of the North Suburban Home Consortium, which shares about $2.3 million among 8 communities. So that's just the monetary resources that are available to nonprofits today who are looking to build in Medford. That's not a lot of money, and so the Affordable Housing Trust is here to try to grow that resource that's available to support affordable housing development. One other thing I want to bring to your attention, I don't have a slide, but in the plan on page 7 is a table that shows recent housing strategies and initiatives. This table summarizes the strategies and initiatives that are described in Medford's housing production plan and the comprehensive plan A lot of these strategies, as identified in the table, some have been completed, many of them are in progress right now, some have not really gotten underway. And some of these are relevant to the Affordable Housing Trust. They may be things that the Affordable Housing Trust can help to address. Some of these are not in the prerogative of the Affordable Housing Trust, but we wanted to understand the context that we're working under. And with that, next slide, please. Just want to make sure. Oh, I did summarize what I just mentioned on this slide. So with that, I'd like to pass back over to Lisa to talk about the action plan for the Affordable Housing Trust.
Thanks, Roberta. Yeah. So the action plan, what are we going to do with all the data that we just did, right? The first thing we did was we created our mission. We do have a mission statement, and our mission statement is to create and preserve community housing, including affordable homeownership and rental opportunities and other forms of housing assistance to low and moderate income households, residents in Somerville, in Medford, excuse me. Sorry. Next slide, please. And then our goals, I mean, we're here, we want to create affordable housing. We want to promote and welcome diverse, intergenerational, inclusive city with the mix of housing choices that offer diverse options to residents with varying needs and preferences. Use our financial and property resources to help address the local housing needs and meet the production goals established in the housing production plan. We want to foster safe, well-designed, accessible, sustainable housing, integrated, affordable, and diverse housing options throughout the city. We want to expand local capacity to implement housing initiatives by building partnerships with mission-driven organizations and developers seeking to build affordable housing. Increase communication about housing resources across the community. We want to build affordable housing partnerships with the mission-driven organizations and developers seeking to build affordable housing, as well as the Medford Housing Authority. We want to preserve and convert existing housing to long-term affordability, support existing homeowners and first-time home buyers, fund housing stability programs, and prioritizing funding for units affordable to households with lower incomes. And then the next slide. We have a lot that we want to do, right? We want to build relationships with the Community Preservation Committee, advocate for affordable housing developments and policies that maximize the resources available to meet the city's housing needs, explore and act upon funding opportunities for the trust, work with developers to build support and navigate approval process, work with partner organizations to establish programs that meet local needs, support initiatives to expand tenant protections and stabilize existing tenancies, provide guidance on the affordable housing projects funded through the CPA programs. Next. And then the trust's commitments to working with the nonprofit partners, Medford Housing Authority, Community Development Corporations, Community Land Trust, the Community Housing Development Organizations, otherwise known as our CHODOs, and comprehensive permit projects. And that is our plan. Does anybody have any questions?
Do you have questions for members of the council? And thank you, Councilwoman. You can end the screen share. Councilor Lemming.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation. I'm glad to see this taking off, and looking forward to voting to endorse the plan. What initiatives do you expect will you be doing day to day over about the next year? So what issues do you think will fill up your agendas in the next 12 months or so?
Right now is trying to build that bank account, right? It takes money to create affordable housing, and we have a balance of $300,000 at the moment, right? 300,000?
We spent some of
We,
it.
yeah, so I think we're down to 200,000. We were able to fund the, fill in a gap over at the 708
Fellsway West.
Fellsways West. So yay. So that's going to be it. Big thing is looking at building our bank account. And right now, we're really going to be focusing on development applications. So applications from our partners, our nonprofit partners that are looking to build in Medford that are having financial gaps. And how can we assist with that, assist with those funding sources?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Scarpelli.
So much. This is something I know that former Council Falco really visioned in 2021, and this is where it started. So would like to give him credit for seeing and visioning this and getting to this point. But and I appreciate all the hard work. But again, I want to bring to light what's scaring people. This is something we should all be celebrating. This is something that shouldn't divide, it should unify, right? And what we're seeing is that the phone calls I received, the input that I received, things that are scaring people, right? One is that this was done an extensive survey. There was 71 people in a community of 60,000. So when you see some of these people comments made from people that live in different communities. So these are the things that kind of, wait a second, I didn't hear about the survey, I didn't see the survey. And again, this is something we're seeing it's a constant that we're seeing that are gonna hinder projects and make this something that we can all rally around and support. So I think that's one thing that I want to bring forth so you can understand what I'm hearing. It's no different than we're hearing, that the debt exclusion for the new school, right? Everybody's nervous. There's going to be a tax so everybody hears because we're not sending out the proper messaging, and so people can understand what it's done. So, some of the things that people have pointed out in some of the survey questions that they think that people, when they read it, it's coming from the people that organize. And I'm like, no, you have to understand the context. And you see things like requiring an annual tax for rental property owners. That's frightening, right? So people get scared when they read these things that are posted. When you see the real estate transfer fee, when you see tax overrides. So these are the things that people say, we want affordable housing. We want to support our trust, affordable housing trust. And there's so many avenues that we can use. But I think that making sure the messaging is done correctly so everybody can understand it, where it's not something that, here we go again, it's the senior citizen that owns a home, lives in a fixed income, that we're now looking to have a tenant that helps subsidize their income and pay for their taxes, but now all of a sudden, someone's telling them, hey, this is a process that people are looking at to put another tax in if you own a rental property. Or this is a transfer tax that if you sell a house, or even something to working with developers. There's an outrageous story going around this is where we want to get ahead of things, is that there are developers that are petitioning the CPA saying, we want to build ADUs, and to build the 400,000 ADU, we need our taxpayers' money to give us half of that. So a wealthy developer is asking for our taxpayers' money to build an ADU, an affordable housing ADU. These are the things that people are coming to me and saying, is this happening? Is this really where we're going with the process, where there are so many other amazing options that we can focus on to create revenue to support this initiative. So I think that's where I think that I bring to light, just to share with you the fact that as we get this started, that, again, when we have surveys and that we did in July, we had a meeting in July. Why is that not appealing to people? What are we hearing from the community? We're having meetings where no one's around. It's something that we're trying to hide. Not to say we're hiding it, but these are the questions we're hearing when you're talking about, rezoning, or we're talking about what we just dealt with earlier. these are the things that we have to find a better way to work with our administration to make sure our communications team is really getting the word out to everybody. Like, these are surveys that should go out in tax bills. These are surveys that should be going out to everybody. So a homeowner can see this, and you know what? Maybe there are homeowners that are looking at this saying, you know what? I live in a 3-family, I own the home, I have 2. This might be something that I want to voluntarily donate a percentage to support the Affordable Housing Trust. See, these are the things, again, that I want to, that I need to stress before I can support something like this, because I think, again, pushing something through, getting something out after all the hard work that you've done, and really not saying that we've gone through the full communication process that's needed when you're talking about so many people, because I don't want to be here in a year and say, well, wait a second, we knew nothing about this. This wasn't presented correctly, just like a trash fee, changing trash pickup once every 2 weeks. So these are the things that I bring that up just to be cautious and understand to go forward. I don't want to be negative. I just want you to see the other side that I've been hearing, what is scaring people, and I've told many people that this is something that there's so many other things when you look at this that are positive, that we can look and say, how do we do support the younger families? Listen, I have a 22-year-old son that wants to stay in Medford, and we know it's going to be difficult for him. Unless, dad builds something off the side of the house, and that's possible, and that might be. That's another avenue that we read, that looking at, how do we reclassify our zoning to help with the affordable housing building.
Can I move in?
Yes, sir.
Can I move in,
I'd
Michelle?
like, you know what? Your rent would be terribly high. We've been watching a lot of football, though. So again, like I said, I'm trying to be I don't want to send a negative message. I don't want to be a negative rabble-rouser. This position gets very tiring when that happens. But I think it's important that everybody understands the messaging that I'm getting, that what's frustrating our community, when you see these initiatives that people read, and it's in print, and they say, wait a second, that's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we tag team it?
Start.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the feedback. Thank you very much. And when we were talking about this, creating the action plan, it was very important to the committee that was doing the action plan to make sure that we did the best that we could to get the word out, advertising of the, I'm sure Roberta will
Workshops.
fill in where I'm missing. But we did the surveys. We did as much as we can, and I would welcome the feedback on how to better make sure, or how to more effectively, I don't want to say better, more effectively make sure that when we are getting doing our workshops and trying to put the word out and tell people what we're doing, because I'm excited about what we're doing. I think it's phenomenal that the Medford has an affordable housing trust fund, and Medford is really going to look and find creative ways and try to develop. I'm extremely excited about it. I've been doing housing for forever in my real world job, full-time job. I love the opportunity. I moved into Medford 20 some odd years ago, and finally hearing about creating affordable housing in Medford is exciting. I have a daughter who had to leave Medford. She didn't want to live with me. But, so I'm excited. I would welcome the feedback on any way that we can better promote what we're doing. When we did our first community meeting with the community, we spent a lot of time of actually defining what affordable housing is with the people that came in the room, and we broke down the different types of housing out there. I am a huge advocate of getting the word out and making sure people understand what we're trying to do, because we're not trying to do anything radical. We're trying to create housing here in Medford for everybody to be able to stay and in a welcoming community. I love Medford.
Councilor
So
Scarpelli,
it's really exciting.
If you don't mind, I just have a follow-up, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, because I think this is kind of the trap we fall into sometimes in the city. how much of this outreach was tasked, like, was it the volunteers of the Affordable Housing Trust who were doing that outreach? Versus like, how much support was available from the city staff?
Oh, we had an amazing city staffer that helped us with putting out the word.
Yeah.
It was on the Community Access Plan channel.
Yeah,
right? It
we
was-
had, it was on the Community Access Channel, we had flyers that were posted around the community in different languages, they were translated, shared through the city's communication channels and on social media, and directly through organizations in the community. One observation, technical observation I would make is that a written survey was one part of the public engagement strategy for this planning effort, which also entailed 2 public meetings and the stakeholder workshops as well. So we made an effort to hear from people. Only so many people responded to that effort. And I would also respond to the comment about people from outside of Medford. I looked at the data. There were 2 respondents out of 70 who didn't live in Medford. Those 2 respondents might be people who work in Medford, or they might be people who lived in Medford until recently and have been displaced from Medford. So I assume that their concern about Medford's housing needs is driven by their having a relationship with Medford that, you know, that would, that they have an experience in Medford that informs their understanding of Medford's housing needs. The other thing that I wanted to point out about the Housing Trust Action Plan is that while the Housing Trust would advocate for additional revenue sources, for the most part, any additional revenue sources that the trust might receive would have to come through the City Council. So the City Council is ultimately going to be the arbiter of whether we fill the coffers of the Affordable Housing Trust.
So if I can, Mr. President.
Councilor Scarpelli.
And I appreciate that. And again, though, the last piece is monumental. It's going to come back on us. And if we haven't educated everybody, you talk about the stakeholders, realistically, 70 people in a community of 60,000, the stakeholders, the ones that are going to be most impacted are who? The homeowners, the people that are paying the taxes, the people that can really look at this process and either support it or stand against it. I would rather educate those people and guide them so they're allies instead of contentious and negative and dividing. That's all I'm trying to say. So when you talk about the 70 and even 2 being outside of Medford, the messaging is that there was only 70 and there were 2 people outside of Medford. So I understand your input, but what's the messaging that goes out isn't framed that way, Ms. Cameron. It's not, it really isn't. It's made to be confrontational. And that's all I want to share with you, because I think that Zach's question was one of the questions I was going to ask. How much work did the city do? How much work did our administration do to support you to make sure that messaging was sent out correctly? Now, many different languages, flyers, it's going to certain groups, right? Certain groups that are invested in this because they want to live in Medford and they can't afford it. So I understand that. Of course they're going to support that. But when it comes down to the process, it has to be make sure that all the stakeholders are informed. So if you said to me, George, yes, the city staff did do it, and the assessor's office sent a survey out to homeowners that are going to be impacted on this, because what this is asking for is what? It's from funding, right? The funding that's coming from where? The taxpayers. That the taxpayers that were just given an override, the taxpayers that are now looking at a debt exclusion, the taxpayers that have many multiple issues that have already come up that we're hearing, rent control, transfer tax. These are the things that I'm bringing forward, just so you can understand that are important, that if we're ahead of it, that we've been trying to battle as a team, I think all of us, saying, can we communicate better with the people that have the ability to do that, and making sure the messaging is sent out correctly, that we can sit there and say, hey, listen, we're not looking at hurting our taxpayers are homeowners that have rental properties. We have avenues instead. Let's rally around looking at developers and looking at ways to look at linkage to say, hey, this percentage goes to our affordable housing, or different avenues like that, that we can all hang our hats on, that we can all advocate for. So that's all I wanted to share. It's easy to be the one that shares the negative side of it. I know it's difficult, but again, when John talked about this years ago, this is an avenue that we looked at, both of us having children at the same age and saying, hey, we were fortunate. The days of my father looking at me and saying, you know, Dad, it's not fair. I want to buy a home in Medford. And I work hard. I graduated college. And he said, you really want to stay in Medford, with his Italian accent? I said, yeah. He says, you can't afford a one job? I said, no. He said, go get a 2 job. If 2 job don't do it, go get a 3 job. And it was easy back then. I got 3 jobs and I bought a home in Medford. To this day, I still have 3 jobs. So it's not easy, but I understand that we're trying to advocate for people that don't have that avenue, that opportunity. So again, I think we're all in agreement that we have to find a better way to communicate, because this work is amazing. This is great work, but it seems like when you look at it and the conversations I've had with people, it's like, oh, we really only reached 70 people. That's not true, but that's what it reads. So again, thank you.
I appreciate the
Thank you.
feedback, and like I said, I would love to sit down
Yeah.
and figure out other ways of making sure that, because there was a lot of work that was
Yeah,
put
there is, I
in,
know that, and I don't want
and
to
being
I don't want to
able
belittle
put
it, and I don't
out
want to hold it up. I
Nope.
think that it's something that we need to move forward with, because Roberta's correct. Whatever happens still has to come to this council. But again, who's it fall back on? This council's going to have to look at people and say, what? Well, did we get the messaging out? So it's not us that are holding the bag on this. So, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. I'm going to go to Councilor Lemming.
Thank you. Just to clarify, we did pass an update to our linkage fee programs. This very council voted on a study to allocate a portion of the linkage fees to affordable housing. The Affordable Housing Trust, in collaboration with the Planning Office, is currently looking at fractional incentives as another mechanism for funding the Affordable Housing Trust. All of those come from developers. The CPC is the one current revenue source that does come directly from taxpayers, and taxpayers have been paying into the CPC for years now, which benefits the community as a whole in a very public way. I previously served on the CPC. I think you can pretty much take any item on any council agenda and spin it up in a negative way. You can take any item from a multi-page report and come up with a way to rabble-rouse or be negative about it. But at the end of the day, most people are excited that we're actually getting some infrastructure to fund affordable housing off the floor. We just voted on a plan to fund some sort of public relations professional to help us out with the rezoning process for a project within a set period of time. The people serving on the Affordable Housing Trust are volunteers. They did the best that they could when coming up with the survey. I understand that 71 people replied. You said that 2 people might have lived outside of Medford. You also quoted members of this council also quoted a petition of 1,000 people, about half of whom lived outside the city, to support one of their arguments recently. So, yeah, I would just like to say that the vast majority of people are excited to see this happen. The vast majority of people are excited to support the Affordable Housing Trust in the most positive light possible. We are coming up with ways to fund it, which are by and large, which by and large come from developers. And I personally feel that everything I saw in the presentation is very positive, and I don't see any reason to throw any sort of shade on it. So thank you very much for your time and for the time that you put into this presentation. Once again, I'm grateful for all the work that you're putting into this.
Thank you. Councillor Callahan.
Thank you. First, I genuinely want to thank you for all the work that you're doing. I think there is a real difference, and people may not realize that technically affordable housing that qualifies as affordable according to the state or the federal government might not even be below the average price of a 2-unit or a 3-unit, sorry, a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom place that we already have in Medford. So technically, the difference between technically affordable housing and actually affordable housing is crucially important. And your organization is really doing that work of looking at how we can provide actually affordable housing here in Medford. And I really think especially about the many seniors who are not wealthy. We have a lot of seniors in Medford. We have a lot of seniors who are low income, on fixed incomes. When I have knocked doors, I can't believe how many people I talk to who are over 65 and are looking in some fear to the day where they can no longer upkeep their home. They do not want to move out of their community and their lifelong friends and family, and yet there is nowhere to downsize in our city. So I so much appreciate the work that you are doing, because it is, I believe, crucially important for, even this large segment of home-owning fixed-income seniors. And I think that solving that problem, which I am also trying to do with a couple of other projects, is genuinely crucially important, and that's a very large group of people. I also want to recognize that 47% of Medford, I believe is what you were saying, are renters, and that renters are people too, and renters are affected by affordable housing, and it is, we cannot only rely upon the opinions of homeowners to understand the needs of the residents of Medford. And finally, I want to, while I appreciate that people may find the idea of a real estate transfer fee or other possible funding mechanisms scary, I think it's vitally important that the Affordable Housing Trust look into all the possibilities of how we can fund affordable housing here in Medford. I appreciate that you don't leave anything out. I really think it's important that we not create a taboo against anyone mentioning these possible ways that we can, support and fund affordable housing here in Medford. We should be talking about them, and it is only through talking about them in realistic ways. To me, this is fantastic education for the public. It is, 98% about, what our needs are, what we currently have, lots of data, possibilities of action plans, things we can do, all of those things. And I think that mentioning these possible ways that we could fund it, whether they are ones that will get passed or ones that won't get passed, things that the community will have input on, I think is the perfect way to educate the community, and I very much appreciate you bringing those up. And I want to make sure that we do not, in this chamber, make it so that it is a taboo for anyone to mention them. That is the only way that our community will begin the process of being able to discuss any of these topics. So thank you so much for your work.
Thank you, Councillor Callahan. Councillor Lazaro.
Thank you. I actually, most of what I was going to say was stuff that Councillor Callahan said beautifully. Just to reiterate, 47%, I mean, the data that you put in the report is really illuminating about the city. I appreciated learning about the shift to younger professionals that are in roommate situations. I think that illuminates a lot about the direction the city is moving. I think it means that we should look toward those people, talk to them more, engage them more as a city. 47% renters is critical to consider. And the housing cost burden falling so heavily on our seniors is also super, super critical for us to keep in mind as we balance how to move forward with our affordable housing needs. I also just want to caution my colleagues that, concerns about the way that we are communicating about things like this, we don't need to necessarily be too worried about the way that people discuss these reports on social media, because often somebody may have an axe to grind, there may be an angle that somebody's trying to access. I don't think it's necessarily more to do with how many people you surveyed. I mean, most of this report isn't even really about the survey, it's mostly about the facts of Medford and who lives here and what their needs are. And as we consider how best to approach the needs of the city, looking at the data is an excellent way to do that. I did also want to know if the presentation will be accessible to the public after the slides, if that will be accessible somewhere. I know the report is in our materials, so that's public record and people can find that on the website, the City Council website, which is, if you go to medfordma.org, you go to City Council, you can see the materials for today's meeting under the agenda. But I just wanted to know if you have the slides available. Okay, that'd be great.
If they could be placed on the Affordable Housing Trust site, and then I'll upload them and attach them to this meeting as well.
Yeah, I think that would be great. There's just a lot of helpful information for people who are curious about like who lives in Medford, where the needs are, and how the Affordable Housing Trust is pointing the help in that direction. So thank you for your work.
Thank you. Council Vice President Collins.
Thank you, President Bears. Thank you both so much for being here. And, through you, would like to thank the entire Affordable Housing Trust trustees for your hard work over these past few years. Was it 2021 or 2022 that the trust fund was officially inaugurated? I can't
Early
remember.
2023, we passed it. But
Early 2023.
Appointments weren't made until July 2024.
That's right. That's right. This is a lot of work for 2 years. This is really impressive. And this is mission-driven work, so I'm sure that everybody serving on this commission would have liked to have started 20 years ago, if not more. But this is a lot of ground to cover in just 2 years, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for diving into this with so much gusto and amassing all the resources that you could on such short time. I think I like how Councilor Lazaro just kind of framed it in her remarks. We can talk about people's feelings about the problem, and we should. And most of the time, we just spend talking about the problem. And that's how the conversation could go. And I appreciate that the report is largely about the facts of the crisis of displacement and uncertainty and unaffordability in Medford, which we know touches all facets of our demography. It touches seniors, people who have lived here their entire lives. It touches young adults who would like to stay here or like to move here, and people who are, have been putting down roots in Medford and finding it increasingly hard to do so. It's a disproportionate slice of our population. I know you all know this better than anyone because you spend your time in the data and you spend your time trying to match the strategies with the data. And I think that your report does an excellent job of just framing the problem for what it is that we have a problem. It's not new. It's been escalating for a long time, and we are trying to play catch up in amassing the strategies and the resources to combat it at the scale and with the urgency that it deserves. And what I have always really appreciated about the scope of an affordable housing trust ever since I first started hearing about it from Councilor Falco before I was on the council, and it was one of the things I was most excited to get to talk about when I was first elected, because it was still in our body, even when Councilor Falco was no longer in the chambers after having proposed it, was that this is a body that can encompass so many different strategies. And so many different strategies that target the things that people really complain about that are not happening. You know, I think there's been a lot of times we've been in this chambers and people have said, what's going on with this property? I wish we could do something there. Or why don't we have more housing for seniors to downsize into? Or why should it be so hard that young people can't move here when they want to start a family like me or my peers did decades ago? And the Affordable Housing Trust can be a container to have all of those conversations. And I think that I don't think that it's wrong to have frank discussions about what strategies people find it easy to say yes to, and what strategies people really need to hear more about and need to understand and need context for and need specificity about to understand how they fit into our life here in Medford. But if we're talking about those, I think that we also need to equally spend time on, or just at least acknowledge, as I think that we all do, all of us in this room, I'm not just talking about behind this rail, but even, you know, people come here, even when we're talking about very controversial topics. I remember about a year and a half ago, we were talking about rent control. It was probably my fault. And somebody came in who was there for some totally other paper, and they got up and they said, you know, I didn't come here to talk about rent control, and I don't know if I support rent control, but I know that I don't support my neighbors getting displaced out of this community. And I think when we're talking about the work of the Affordable Housing Trust, it's very clear to me that everybody in our community, regardless of how they tend to characterize what strategies they prefer politically, we know that we don't want our neighbors to get displaced, and we know that it needs to be easier for people to afford to stay here. And I think that really unifies us on this side of the rail, on that side of the rail, and it has to be data-driven. And so I'm really glad that our work is starting there with just, again, putting numbers in a report that, you know, not the MAPC and not another agency owns, but something that Medford owns, putting numbers in a report that Medford owns to what is the scale of the problem, a snapshot for this year compared to 10 years ago. And then as we continue to do the work that you've been doing for 2 years, which is try to enfranchise the trust with the resources to be putting forward those loans, to be making those grants if you choose to do so, to be building the capacity to do real work in the community in the future, so that we know that we're matching the scale of the problem, that, you know, that 2/3 of the households that are below 50% area median income, the 2/3 of that number that are housing cost burdened, which is a huge number of our neighbors that are housing cost burdened, to make sure that we are doing the work that we know the community is enthusiastic about, which is doing the work of making it easier to live here and easier to stay here no matter who you are. And I think that's something that everybody wants to see. No matter how you order that list of strategies, I know that's something that everybody wants to see. I was going to say one more thing, but I forget what it is. I think this is a really great start, and, you know, I want to affirm the same point that I think all of my fellow councilors have been making, which is perhaps to reframe it. I think occasionally when people hear about strategies, they get scared because many strategies have been maligned, and of course there's pros and cons to everything. But on the other side, I think the other advantage to talking about things more and better is that when we share the strategies that the Affordable Housing Trust is looking to do more and better of, people get excited. And people say, finally, we're going to be developing strategies that actually cut to the heart of this issue. This is exciting. How do I get involved? How can I contribute? How can I volunteer? How can I donate? So, thank you so much for your work so far. And I hope that this council can be a partner to you in not only supporting your work, but also making sure that it's broadcast out to the community, both the folks who are paying attention and the folks who are marginalized by the economics of our region, and for that reason are so much harder to reach with outreach and surveys like the ones that inform this report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sang.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited to be one of your partners on the council for this work. I mean, I think all of us tonight have underscored the importance of affordability and the importance of letting people be able to stay here and keep calling Medford home. I mean, I know a few of us are, in that position where we're looking to stay and it's looking increasingly difficult. And there's much to say about the regional housing market, about greater market forces too. But I think that we can all acknowledge that this is a huge problem. This is a problem that touches generations, right? I mean, I think you acknowledged earlier in the report or in the presentation the intergenerational layer of this, that dimension of seniors finding it hard and young people finding it hard, and family types changing, and changing what that means for the city of Medford and the type of housing we need to invest in and create in this city. I see the Affordable Housing Trust as an important tool in the toolbox in this fight against rising costs. And I think you guys acknowledge how big of a task it is in this report. When you talk about, these are the other tools we need to advocate for and invest in. And, I hear some members of the community who are concerned about, small aspects of what was in the greater report. But I do commend people to take a look at the comprehensive product that you guys have produced and at the slides that you guys have produced tonight, because I think what you guys are saying is that we have these priorities that are, immediately in front of us that aren't as, big policy objectives rather, but, investing in community housing, investing in preserving affordable housing here. And those things, I assume, are going to be a very big part, if not a huge part, of what you guys do moving forward. And when it comes to all these other tools and mechanisms we need to be looking at, that requires partnership, right, with the city council and building community support and getting input. And I think, as Councillor Collins alluded to earlier, we've seen that already in the past with some of the items that are in here, where the community has come out in support or in opposition, and everyone holds their views, but they make their views known. And this action plan isn't the end of the conversation, rather it starts the conversation. And that's so important. It's important to put out bold ideas so that we can have a conversation about them. And actually putting out those ideas in the first place creates more feedback and more input and more conversation about them. So I think it's a really good thing that you guys have been so comprehensive in your work in this action plan. I was really impressed reading it. And I have to say, I am really, we can make a lot of hay about one very tiny part of the work that you guys have been doing, but reading through the report, the focus groups with stakeholders, the market survey, and all the community surveys and analyzing that data, there's so much other work that you have already done to create this action plan. And it's really, really important to acknowledge and commend you all for that work. So thank you so much. And I look forward to helping you see through this action plan, to seeing what we can do on the council to help you guys with your efforts as well, and in welcoming the community to join in and be a part of that conversation.
Thank you, Councillor Sang. Thank you guys for your presentation. Really appreciate the dialogue on this. I understand how much work you guys put in here, and I know how much work so many people put in to lots of things that make our city run. And I also know that a lot of that work is happening because we don't have the city resources and city funding, in my opinion, to set our city up for success. And I think that's really, maybe a bridge between some of the perspectives we've heard tonight is like, what does it look like for the city of Medford to set up our boards and our commissions and our committees and our task forces for success? I think this is a really strong report. There's a ton of detailed information, data analysis. I really appreciate that. And I think you guys are on the same page. You would have loved that survey to be 140 people instead of 70, or 280 instead of 140. And I think the question is, like, what is it going to take for us to get there? You know, what does making sure that the staff who worked with you have the tools to get more outreach? What does it look like for more people to be engaged in the different ways that our city communicates with people? Because I do think, you know, it makes things harder when we don't have that. And that's, I think, where I can agree with Councilor Scarpelli. While I can also agree with all my other colleagues on all of their comments, you know, it's a great start, and you're working really hard, and you did the best with what we have as a city right now. And I think the question is, just like the question is on affordable housing, we're doing good work, but we need to do more. And we need a lot more affordable housing. We need you guys to have more than $300,000. We need the CPC to have more support. We need everybody to really have more resources to thrive, because we need more affordable housing so that people who want to live here can thrive. So that's hopefully a bridge that we can have between all the different perspectives we've shared tonight. And we can do our work to lift up the amazing work that you've done so far and fight to make sure that you have the resources you need to do even more. And that's where I'm coming down on it. So I just really want to thank you, because I'd love more people to be hearing about what you're doing. And I know you guys would love that. And it wasn't something you guys were doing, but I walked in to room 201 a few weeks ago, and some folks from our PDS office were holding a session on the rehab program. We have the rehab grant program, right? And they had all of these amazing resources, and they had other successful forms of outreach, but that day, I don't know if anybody walked in. And that's kind of the how do we get that out there more? How do we make sure that people know more about what's going on in our city? Because it's good. And that's really, I hope, the thing that we can try to provide. And I really want to thank you for bringing this before us and presenting it. And I want to see this action plan succeed. And I hope that in 5 years, when we're doing the next action plan, we're talking about, you know, $3 million, not $300,000, maybe even more than that. And hopefully we can help with that with our linkage fee work and inclusionary fractional and some of the stuff that's in this report that I think is on our fingertips in the next few months to try to get implemented. So that's my piece. Thank you for that. Do you need us to vote on this? Or you just wanted to present it to share? Yeah. Great. Well, thank you so much. And thanks. Is there a motion to, we do have one comment online. It looks like we have some public comment. So if there's anyone who wants to comment on this paper, either in person or on Zoom, you can come to the podium or raise your hand on Zoom. And I will start on Zoom right now. Micah, name and address for the record, please, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Sure. Micah Kesselman, 499 Main Street. I do have a question for the housing trust that I want to get to, but I do first also want to just make the comment that it is frustrating to see the council platform FUD driven by people who aren't providing any sort of reasoned cogent analysis to for their criticisms of something like this. 70 is not necessarily a bad sample size. I mean, a lot of that depends on methodology and a bunch of other aspects that anyone who's looked at survey science for a little bit can explain to you. But just criticizing this because it has an answer, it only has 70 respondents is nonsense. So with that said, thank you very much for presenting this. Was really great to hear. It's really interesting data. My question is related to whether or not you had any observations or inferences you could make about changes that you're seeing to the demographics of families with children, because your data shows that there's like a 2% drop in households with young children in Medford. And presumably, going hand in hand with the increased cost to move into Medford, that means that those children are from increasingly narrower, more homogeneous, possibly demographics. So, um, and that is a concern too, because for those of us with children, we want our children to grow up in a diverse city as well, and have all the benefits and things that are great that go along with that. So yeah, I just want to know if there's any data you were able to sort of extract from on that ground.
Thank you. We're gonna go through everything, and then I'll write down the questions, and we'll see what we got. Gonna go to Lisa Serio on Zoom. Lisa, name and address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Lisa Serio. I live at 19 Paul Road. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I just had a question. Maybe I understand the statement, but Councilor Lemmy mentioned shade on the market survey, like he doesn't want shade put on the market survey. Is shade a negative? Is shade like, I don't want somebody to say something negative about like the number of people that participated in the survey? Because I think it's important to understand that 70 people, that was the data analyzed was 70 people. That's kind of important for me to know as, as a voter and as a constituent in Medford, that I understand that that's how many people were taking part in the market survey. I don't know if that's a negative. He said something about shade, and it took me a minute to understand. Is he saying that negatively? Because to me, it's important to know that. Like, I don't understand why he said it that way. Also, Councilor Callahan and Collins and Lazaro, I'm of the same mindset as George Scarpelli. When I told my dad I wanted to live in Medford, he said, yeah, okay, good. You're going to have to get like 2 jobs, And so I worked at British Airways and Tufts University, and I worked 2 jobs 7 days a week. So I could afford a house in Medford. So for me, in order for housing to be affordable, I had to kick butt to get money to get a house in Medford. And that's the way I could afford a house in Medford, just working a ton of jobs. That's the only way I could afford a house in Medford. I didn't have parents. My parents were immigrants. They couldn't give me money to buy a house in Medford. So that's the way I got my house in Medford. So I want to say, though, that even though you may think that I, at 71, want to downsize, I do not want to downsize at all. I am aging in place. I have set my house up. I live around the neighbors I want to live around. I live around the young neighbors I want to live around. So I am not going to downsize in any way. I am staying in my house that I'm living in, and I am going to figure out a way to make ends meet, like a lot of other constituents in Medford. Get a job, work, even if you're 71, come on, man, you got to go back to work. That's how you got to do it. If you're going to bring the taxes up for me, that's fine. I'm just going back to work. I'll take a person to rent a room, but I'm not going to downsize. That's not my idea. And it's a lot of people in my neighborhood. There are older people that are living all alone in the house, and that's what we're aging in place. So I just wanted to say that and get clarity on what shade is, because I didn't understand that. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We'll go next to Marie. Marie, name and address for the record, please, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Marie Uzo from, I live on Pilgrim Road in Medford. And I really want to thank Roberta and the other lady, I can't remember her name.
Marie, it's pretty muffled. Could you
Okay. No?
sorry. It's
No,
pretty
huh?
muffled. We're having
Oh.
a hard time hearing you.
Oh, I don't know why. Okay. Well, I'll try back. Yeah, I can try back later. I can try to reset it. So you still can't hear me?
Yeah, it's still very muffled. I'm going to go to the next commenter, then I'll come back to you. Maybe put it on speakerphone, or I don't know if you're, not exactly sure your microphone situation is, but I'm going to go to Robert, and then I'll come back to you, Marie.
Robert Carney.
Name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Yep. Robert Carney, 50 Hicks Ave, Unit 6. First of all, thanks for the presentation. My wife and I are recent homeowners in Medford with comfortable middle-class salary, and we could barely afford to buy a place here, so totally get what you're saying. Now, one suggestion I would have when thinking about this plan here, just all of your initiatives, is when thinking about like middle class, working class people too. In your presentation, you talked about expanding tenant protections, I believe, or it might have been in some of your backup documents. But I'd also like to also add for consideration too is also thinking about really helping, especially like working class landlords, to also have the resources to know, like not only how to be good landlords, but also how to like protect themselves from unnecessary risk. There was a recent news article from NBC 10 that was talking about these professional tenants who have learned how to scam the system by going place to place and kind of trashing properties, and things like that can also really leave small time landlords in the lurch. So I think thinking about that as well, because I would say that there's a lot of working class people in Medford who might be relying on rental income from a 2 or 3 family property, who I think could just benefit from really having support in the community to be able to maintain their property, but also protect their property rights too. Thank you.
Thank you. We will follow up on that question about changes, demographics, families of children. We can follow up with Micah directly. And and I think just in general, the public comment is not really so much a question and answer, but if you have specific questions or comments directed to specific counselors, you can always ask them questions or communicate with them directly. And I know that we can also get in touch with our Affordable Housing Trust Fund chair and members anytime, so feel free to email me and I can follow up with them and get information. Councilor Scarpelli?
If I can, Mr. President, I appreciate your words, but I'm trying to be as diplomatic as possible, and I allow my colleagues to throw negatives my way without using my name, but I'm not going to take it from residents who have the answers that'll solve the world's problems every time they approach that podium. Mr. President, what you do have is a city council that was elected by the people of Medford that have an opinion that need to be shared. So the comments from some of my colleagues that led to the fact that this is shade and shame on me or setting a negative agenda or whatever it may be, the truth of the matter is that's totally opposite of what I stated. What I stated was I appreciate the hard work and all the positive information that could be shared and then presented so people can understand the full value of that, so we can all celebrate it and work together, not divide. And what I have my council colleagues sitting behind the rail and talk about with one part of their mouth, one side of their mouth, they're going to talk about communication and why that's so important and why we need it and why we need to fund it and why we need to go forward with that process. But the other side of the mouth say, well, if it's a different focus, if it's a different view from what they feel, shame on you. And that's just not right. That's not right. I was elected to be a voice, and that's all I shared this evening, were the few issues that community members had shared with me, and I will not stop doing that. If you want to continue to be contentious and we want to go back and forth with this, we can continue these meetings till 11 o'clock at night, being negative and going back and forth, because, listen, if that's what you want, that's what we'll do. But again, Council President, I appreciate you bringing that full circle, and I appreciate you seeing the process of what I was saying. To go back and look at my vote or my process in other areas, or where I've been, or where I focus on other issues, and bring up numbers of people and surveys, we can do that on both sides if we want to keep doing that in the next 2 years. I'm willing to do that. Because we all know where the votes are going to go. It's going to be 6-1. We all know that. One council doesn't have the support. We understand that. That's going to be, I'm going to put a little score chart right here. With everything that I put forward, we're going to say, it's going to be contentious, it's going to be contentious. What I said earlier to the leaders of our trust was that was a very good, very informative presentation that should be presented to so many people. And I appreciate Councilor Lazzaro sharing where people can say that this is where you can find it, because the truth of the matter is, a lot of times when I'm presenting something, it's something that I feel the need that I have to share. But something simple to say, well, we have now the PowerPoint that you can go to read and look at that, where it's supporting our senior citizens we're so afraid of keeping them in their homes. So again, just a comment to my colleagues and to the residents. I'm not going to be silenced because you feel offended because I didn't feel the same way you felt. I'm going to speak for what the people that have reached out to me and offer their opinion because I'm their voice. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And Marie, we'll give you one more shot. We'll see if we can hear you, Marie. Name and address to the record. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, it's Marie Izzo from Pilgrim Road.
That's
Can you
great.
hear me now?
We can hear you loud and clear. We can hear you
Yay.
loud and clear.
Thank you. Anyway, I want to thank everyone for all the work that went into this, but I just want to mention a couple of things that really stand out for me. One is, after all of the years, at least I've been in this conversation for at least 10 years here about affordable housing in Medford and increasing the rate of affordable housing. And, when we come to 8% at this point, it's I'm very sad that this is it. This is all we've had. And this includes things that haven't even been built yet, including like 250 units that haven't even been built yet. The other thing I want to mention is also that this area mean income is not an accurate indicator. And I want to thank Roberta for clarifying that it's based on household income and that, in fact, it's meaningless if we look at household income. If, 4 people living together, each making $80,000 or $90,000 a year minimum, and whatever the number is, and now you have a household income of like $400,000 there, and, going into the average. But, when we look at really who Medford is versus, sort of matching that data with the needs in the city, I can't imagine how we'll ever be able to do this, particularly when we're having these kinds of conversations, one way or the other. I think that it's just a stark reality that, we have young people moving in with high incomes that can afford either to buy or to rent at, higher rates. And then we're building potentially things that, and I'm going to mention this, what's happening down by City Hall, where we're leasing to contractors at very, very high levels just to build more housing to attract people to come in when we're not addressing the need within the city. That's really all I want to do. And I just want the council to bear in mind that we really need to match the needs of the city the way that they've shown up. And I'm grateful for looking at this and addressing it accurately, not with these numbers that don't mean anything, like this area mean income. And, we're only giving it to people at 80% of that area mean income. And those are not the people in need. Those people coming in, single people that are making whatever amounts of money. So I just want to keep everyone really, if we can focus on matching the needs to the people and the economic situation where 50% are making less than 50%, but there is never any housing that's going to address 50% of that population, period. But thank you all for, spending the time and doing the work, including the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Marie. All right. on the motion to receive and place on file by Council Vice President Collins, seconded by Councilor Callahan. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, you guys. 25182, submitted by Mayor Brandon Legault-Kern, proposed wage adjustment for library union. I respectfully request and recommend that the City Council approve the following amendments to revise ordinances, Chapter 66, Article 2, City of Medford, amendment to revised ordinance, Chapter 66, Article 2, be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Medford in Chapter 66, entitled Personnel, Article 2, entitled Reserve, the City's Classification and Compensation Plan, formerly included as Article 2, Section 6631, amend the figures as they presently appear next to the following title by adjusting each to reflect the following percentage wage increases and effective dates. Library, effective July 1, 2024, increase base salary of all library unions by 3%. July 1, 2025, 2.5% increase. July 1, 2026, 2.25% increase. July 1, 2027, 2.25% increase. Community Resources Director Lisa Crowley will be available to answer any questions. Thank you for your kind attention to this matter. Respectfully submitted, Brianna Legault-Kern, Mayor. Do we still have, do we want to hear from the director? All right. We have a motion from Councilor Scarpelli to waive the 3 readings and approve to be ordained. All right. Motion to waive the 3 readings, approved to be ordained by Councilor Scarpelli, seconded by Councilor Lazaro. When you're ready, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Councilor Lazaro. Councilor Lemming. Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Singh. President Beers.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion passes. 25183, donation acceptance, Trees Medford for tree planting. Dear President Bears and members of the City Council, I respectfully request and recommend that your honorable body approves under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, a donation in the amount of $25,000 by Trees Medford to the Department of Public Works Forestry Division to fund public tree plantings. Teresa DuPont, CPA Manager, and a representative of Trees Medford will be in attendance to address the council. Recognize Manager DuPont. And you should be able to start your video if you want.
Hello, everybody. Thank
Who's
you.
with us from Trees Medford, Teresa?
I thought it was going to be Amanda Bowen, and I thought she was going to be joining online. I don't see her.
That's all right.
But I'm here. I'm happy
I think we're
to.
happy to take a donation, but we do want to hear about the great work Trees Medford does to raise the money.
Yes. So just as a little bit of background, the CPA hat that I wear is very wide brimmed. So I end up touching quite a few departments, including having some overlap with my colleagues in the forestry department, as well as Trees Medford. So I'm here tonight to ask for your approval in accepting a cash donation from Trees Medford in the amount of $25,000. This source was from the community fund a couple of previous fiscal cycles ago. It was forward funded to Trees Medford and it's just kind of been sitting in an escrow account awaiting appropriation. So that's why we're here today, to actually get that funding into the tree planting donation fund, which does exist and is out there if anybody has some extra chump change at the end of the year and want to donate it. So this is a request to have that funding be accepted and then immediately put back into tree plantings around the city. I'm happy to answer any other questions that this body may have.
Thank you. I'll go to Councilor Callahan.
Thank you. I just have a little question about this tree planting donation fund, and from other conversations I have had with other people, it is not always assured that donations go toward the thing that they were originally donated for. And I know that we will be upgrading the city's budgeting software and financial software to address that problem specifically, that there just simply aren't enough codes. So I'm basically just asking, can we be assured that this funding is in fact going to go toward planting public trees?
Thank you. I need to forget to not mute myself again afterwards. This the exact account number and description is specifically for tree planting. So that would be a red flag for anybody else that's setting up a purchase order if it's not for tree planting. So rest assured that that funding would go directly into a dedicated account specifically for public donations for tree plantings, and that's all that would be expended from it. I mean, I can assure that the work, there's actually tree plantings happening right now, so I highly doubt that funding will be sitting around for too long. But I would assure this body that that funding would be used for tree plantings.
And I imagine you may not know the answer to this question, but is the budget for tree plantings ever reduced because there is money in this fund?
No. It's just nice money to have that's around, but there is an annual budgeted amount for tree plantings that Aggie does a great job of spending down. So this is just some nice boon money to kind of do a quick increase in this year's tree plantings before the end of the season.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions for Manager Dupont? Seeing none, is there a motion? On the motion to approve by Councilor Singh, seconded by Vice President Collins, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Councilor Lazaro. Councilor Lemming. Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Singh. President Pierce.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion passes. Thank you, Teresa, although I think you're here for the next one, too.
I am.
25184, submitted by Mayor Brianna Lingo-Kern. Appropriation request, Community Preservation Committee. Dear President Bears and City Councilors, on behalf of the CPC, I respectfully request and recommend your honorable body approve the following recommendation of the CPC, requesting the appropriation of $55,000 from the CPA Historic Preservation Reserve to the Shiloh Baptist Church of Medford to fund their ongoing ADA improvement project. Project will be tracked in the Community Preservation Fund. CPC recommendation letter attached and incorporated. CPA Manager Dupont will be in attendance to address the council. Respectfully submitted, Brianna Lingo-Kern, Mayor. Go ahead, Teresa.
Hello again. Yes, so I'm here before you tonight to support the request of the CPC to fund in the amount of $55,000 the Shiloh Baptist ADA improvements project. This is a project that this council has seen before, but just as an update to where this project stands now. It's at a good 75 completion right now, which is excellent. They're slated for a early springtime opening for the child care facility that will be in their basement, which is a lot of what this ADA improvements are slated for. However, as I think everybody's finding, budgets are a little tight right now, and they're just coming up against some change orders and need a little bit of additional contingency funding to finish this project. And that is why we're here before you tonight and asking for your support. If I could, I know it's been a long meeting, but I just want to highlight a couple of great things that the Shiloh Baptist Church has done. In partnership with the Sanctuary Church, they've actually been running a weekly produce food pantry. Sadly, it ended for the season a couple of weeks ago, but I really do want to champion their continued efforts to really be a meaningful partner to the West Medford community. We're also pursuing National Registry designation for the church. A little bit of backstory, it's a very prominent church in West Medford, and one of the two brown shingle buildings that are Baptist churches that are about 2 blocks away from each other. So just as a quick update, we are pursuing, again, National Registry designation for this building, which would allow and open up further grant opportunities. The building still needs another million plus in restoration work. So I just wanted to give that little update because this is a project that this council has seen multiple times. And I'm happy to address any other further questions and ask for your support.
Thank you, Manager Dupont. I'll go to Councilor Scarpelli, then Councilor Lazaro. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Dupont, thank you so much. I know that I've asked this question a few times and I bring it up again because for some reason it's the same question. But again, the Community Preservation Fund is made for supporting our historical sites. And we know how historical and how important our Shiloh Baptist Church is in our community. Again, the approval of this process is to support its historical integrity, correct? And this is why we are allowed to share our taxpayers' funds for a project like this, because I would support it 1,000%.
Yes, and I will say, Councilor Scarpelli, I always appreciate that you want to clarify for the public just to make sure that this is a transparent process. So I appreciate your comments here. Yes, ADA improvements to a historical community asset is an eligible expense under CPA. And just to explain that a little bit, it's just so that it continues to be a modernly used historical asset. And with that, you need to have ADA accessibility.
Well, again, like I said, I think that that's important to make sure that we eliminate any of those negative questions that are out there, and I appreciate everything you do, and this is something that I would move approval when it is time, Mr. President, so thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Lazaro.
Thank you. I just have a couple of questions about the proposed childcare facility that may be opening as part of this project. It's very exciting. There's a real lack of accessible childcare in Medford, so I know there are a lot of people trying to address that issue. Can you tell me what ages of kids would be served by this project?
I don't want to say for certain, but I believe it is like a 5 to 12 age bracket, perhaps even younger. It might be 5 to 8. It has been a while since I've revisited that aspect of this project, been really more focusing on the building itself. But I can certainly find that out and would be happy to share that with this council. It is Bonsai Childcare, which does already have a facility in Medford. So this will be an expansion. So if anybody is familiar with Bonsai Childcare, I personally am not. I don't have children, but I can certainly find that out and follow up with this group. But I believe it is in the 5 to 8, or maybe even younger to 8 years old.
Okay, I appreciate all of the work that Shiloh Baptist Church is doing to contribute to the holistic service of the needs of our residents in Medford. After-school care for our elementary age students is something that we've been facing a lot of challenges in Medford lately. I know that there's a lot of work being done, and we're addressing a lot of the problems, but I'm sure this is one of the ways. I'm not on school committee, so I can't speak directly, but I do have kids who are in elementary school and had to start a new program this year, and there was just for a long time a gap for third graders. One program would end in second grade, and another program, these are private programs, so not even the school programs, but the next program didn't do third grade, started in fourth grade. And there just wasn't, there wasn't enough for third graders. So anyway, it sounds awesome. I'm glad that it's happening. I would be happy to support this. I would be happy to support it anyway, just for the historic preservation of the building and for the service that it provides to the neighborhood. But I love it when something can both serve the church community and also be serving the wider community as well. It's just a really great example of cohesion and everybody helping each other out in a real community. So thank you for bringing this forward and for your work.
Thank you, Councilor Lazaro. On the motion of Councilor Scarpelli to approve, seconded by Vice President Collins. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilor Callahan. Vice President Collins. Councilor Lazaro. Councilor Lemming. Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Singh. President Beers.
Yes, 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The motion passes. Public participation. If there's anyone who'd like to speak on a topic of their choosing for 3 minutes, please raise your hand on Zoom or come to the podium in person. All right, seeing none, is there a motion on the floor? Motion to adjourn by Councilor Lazaro, seconded by, wait, that is a Collins motion? Oh, and Collins seconded. All right, great. Motion by Councilor Lazaro, seconded by Vice President Collins. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Meeting is adjourned.